Count it in. Eyes up, record. Sunday night, silver flicker in the blue. Blink on, blink back, what did it do? Night vision up, heartbeat on the grid. I've lost tapes before, this one won't be hit. South sky blooms like an angel made of glass. Shapes in the dark, a spell they cast. Left brain, right brain, hold that frame. Pin the event, date, place, name. I am the observer, eyes on the unknown.
Well, I want to welcome you to Observer of Anomalous Objects. Apologize, we're having a little bit of sound problems. That's why I'm using the headphones today. But, you know, the show must go on regardless of whether you're having technical problems or not. And today I'm very, very excited because we're going to have Steve Bassett come on. But before I bring him on, let me go ahead and read his biography real quick. Steve Bassett is a leading political activist advocating for official disclosure of an extraterrestrial presence interacting with humanity. He is the founder and executive director of the Paradigm Research Group and co-founder of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, also known as HDA. For decades, he has worked to end the government truth embargo surrounding UAPs and extraterrestrial phenomenon. Bassett has organized major disclosure events at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., helping bring UAP issues into mainstream media and public discussion. Through PRG, he continues to advocate for legislation and congressional hearings, while HDA seeks to engage the film industry in preparing the public for a post-disclosure world. His work bridges politics, science, and public awareness in pursuit of greater transparency and understanding. And we are going to be talking about Disclosure Day. We're going to be talking about disclosure, and that's something that Steve has been advocating for almost 30 years now. And so without any further ado, let me go ahead and add the one and only Steve Bassett to the stage.
Please tell me you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear. In fact, it's
Perfect.
a little too loud. It's my adjustments, not yours. So just keep it up. At least as far as I know, it's just me. You know, as far as the loudness. Did you get a chance to go out and watch the movie, Steve? Disclosure Day. Okay. Sure. So what were your impressions of it?
Okay. Well, first of all, your audience needs to understand that when I go and watch that movie, it's not like, oh, it's a Spielberg movie, let's go watch it, see if it's any good, right? No. In this case, this is the case for this film, and that is that I watch it as a political activist 30 years on. By the way, it's 30 years officially, July the 4th.
Oh, wow.
When I arrived in D.C. to do this setup right away. A mere 30 years is nothing. So my take on it is going to be very different than just about anybody else you might talk to, though I can't say that for sure. So with that in mind, let me give you the picture. First of all, I didn't watch it until just a few days ago. I deliberately wanted to let millions of people see it first, so that when I did talk about it, they would be able to take something away from it, right? I'm not a movie critic. And I did something I've never done before, and that is that I went to a midweek matinee, 10 a.m. actually, at the Gallery Place Theater here, which is huge. It has like 10 theaters. It's massive. All the good stuff, got the reclining seats, got the great sound. And I selected row 2, center seat. And I went in, sat down, reclined back, and just relaxed and waited for the film to begin. Of course, I had to suffer through the trailers and stuff, which I hate, despise.
Like a half an hour at a Regal Theater.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's what
I don't want to see them. right? They give away everything away in a desperate effort to try to get enough people in the theater, break even, whatever. So I'm anti-trailer, hardly a big deal. But as the movie began, I couldn't help but notice that there was not a single other person in the theater, which is exactly what I wanted. That doesn't mean that it's not doing well. It's doing pretty well. It will break even, but this was a 10 a.m. matinee, I think, on Wednesday or something. So I'm completely alone. Perfect. That's just what I wanted. And so I relaxed, sit there. I actually was going to try to take some notes. I took a few, and then as that movie begins, I engage it in a very straightforward way. What is he trying to say? The entertainment is fine, special effects, whatever. But what is their message here? Is there a secondary agenda? And of course there is. Whether there was with Close Encounters, I don't know. When I watch Close Encounters, just go watch a good movie. And it was fantastic, obviously, with an unbelievable ending. And this was 1977, right? 49 years ago? Yeah, that's right. And I just go into the movies. Though I have to tell you, the ending of Close Encounters never left me. It stuck there, as it did with millions of other people. And I'm sure played a part in my deciding I'm going to spend the rest of my life engaging this issue as an activist, because the truth simply cannot be withheld any longer. It's a major problem. So there was that. Now this is different. So I'm watching this movie. Okay. So I'm going to avoid trailers here. I think I will avoid some trailers to still get my point across. If I do give up a little something, it won't be terrible.
Okay.
Right. So the very first thing you see in that film is violence.
Yeah.
Immediately. All right. But it's not just any violence. It is scripted violence. And it's not full out violence, though it could be definitely a little painful. It's how could I put it?
Theatrical.
Yeah, it's theatrical, but yet still dangerous. Somebody's getting hurt, but it's not like watching an actual fight between two people in the street with knives out. No, but it's violence and it's scripted. And that immediately, I got that immediately. The message is, this is a violent world, right? In so many ways, but certainly in the matter of wars, we've been having them by the scores my entire lifetime. And I was born just after World War II and thought, hey, that's it. But, Korean War shortly thereafter, well, look, I understand that. So aftermath, big problem. So they did that. And then after that, what is it, 1954, whatever, I'm thinking, smooth sailing from here. No. So all my growing up, I was watching wars take place, of which we were part of, and millions of people being slaughtered. All right. Scripted. Why scripted? Because guess what? The wars that we have seen are scripted. There are a couple of things that might have just happened because something happened extraordinary just took place out of nowhere. But almost all of the wars that we have seen in our lifetime, which are dozens, killing millions and millions and millions of people, are scripted. They're scripted by the leaders of nations as they vie for a one-up territory, what have you, and then they have to sort of work it out so that the people will go along with them. So they're willing to send their sons and daughters off to die. Scripted violence is just as violent as non-scripted violence in some cases, certainly in the case of the human race. And that is instantly there in the first seconds of the movie. So I'm happy, right? I'm going, okay, this has got messages. This has got a statement. There's no question. He didn't just pull that opening scene out of nowhere. He gave it a lot of thought. So as you move through the film, he's all right. Let me back up. All right, let me back up because I want to explain why I came to the conclusion that this thing was going to be a message movie, but it was going to be subtle. And that is this. Spielberg has been involved in this issue for a very long time. I think the first time we might have gotten that was Close Encounters. So that's 49 years ago. He's 75 now. I think that was even 36. No, 26. Maybe see. 75 minus 50. Yeah, about 25. Close Encounters, 1977. No, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. He's 80. That's right. He's 80. In fact, he and I were born 9 days apart. 9 days apart? Yeah, 9 days apart. Which I just found out until recently. And so he's like 50, 49. He jumps in with that film, Close Encounters. It makes a big impact. Years go by, and then he comes in with another major project called Taken. This is a 20-hour series, I believe, Sci-Fi Channel. They ran it for a long time, moved it around the world, UK, Canada, repeating it over and over again, like they would run one, and then the next time they'd run 2 episodes, and then 3, and then 4. And it was all in 2002, 2003, which, okay, fine. That was his second run, but why did it get your attention? Taken is basically an attempt to describe the fundamental issue, not only the truth embargo, but the phenomena itself, particularly contact, in a long series, in a fictional way. And so you've got some individuals in a family that are standing in for the entire government truth embargo, right? You've got a number of contactees and various experiences that are going on. Also, he kind of gets in the history of the issue, describing what it was like in the very early days as people kind of got together to share their stories because nobody else would believe them. And they started having meetings and night lookouts and so forth like that. It really took you back to those days. So 20 hours, but more importantly, Taken was timed deliberately. And possibly to some, and it was created in anticipation of, because it would have taken a long time to create that series. Important events that took place in 2002. And those events involved very important people in his field. One of them was John Podesta, who had been president during the Clinton administration, during the Rockefeller Initiative, was aware of it, part of the engagement of the DOD, and so forth. So fully on top of that. And I think once you're on top of something like that, it's never going to leave you. And then he moves on. The Clintons also moved on, but absolutely stayed away from the issue, literally stayed away. But they were going to be running for, well, at least she was going to be running for president. Her husband needed to back her up. And so, but Podesta didn't have that problem. So he is kind of carrying the torch forward. And not surprisingly, just 2 years after the Clintons were out of office, he turns up again. He's working with Leslie Kean. I think he does a foreword for her book. But more importantly, he gets tied into a very significant project. It's not clear who put this together, though I think John Podesta is the first candidate. All right. And it was called the Coalition for Freedom of Information, which was essentially an activist organization that, unlike mine, which was a one-man show operating out of Bethesda with no money, this was going to be a serious organization seeking to get information about this issue. It had an interesting name, Coalition for Freedom of Information. It was backed by sci-fi money, all right? And it brought in important people like Leslie Kean. She was director of research, all right? And interestingly enough, it had a publicist that happened to be John Podesta's brother, Tony. It had a high-level K Street lawyer. It had all the bells and whistles you can have when you have some money. One day I may experience that. And then it holds an announcing press conference at the National Press Club on October 22nd. I attend, of course, and John Podesta introduces it. Not as a member of that organization, but to introduce it. And that's when he comes out in front of the mic and makes a statement that is on tape. It's on the internet. It'll be there forever. The full statement he made is elusive. I have not seen it. I'd love to have a copy of it. If somebody's got the copy of his full introduction to the Coalition of Freedom of Information at the National Press Club, October 22, 2002, please send me that file. But in that statement is when he makes these remarks that the American people deserve to know the truth. They can handle the truth. So they have a right to it, and it is the law. And it's a very important statement from him, former major advisor to President Clinton during the Rockefeller Initiative. And then just a few days later, Taken is doing its premieres. They did a premiere in LA. I think they did one in New York, also did one in DC. just a short time afterwards. I have the poster of it right in front of me here. And they held this premiere at the Reagan building, not just any building, the Reagan building. So you got this organization, right? It's now very substantial, high end. And then you've got this film coming out from Spielberg that really goes after the issue in a way that everybody can kind of get. It's backed by sci-fi money. And then, of course, it's premiering in the Reagan building. So naturally, I went to that as well. And, well attended, very high end, huge ceilings, waiters dressed up in the full uniforms, walking around with silver plates. I'm sure they were made out of silver, with hors d'oeuvres that were of the highest quality. And so I'm grabbing as many of those as I can. And they showed one, maybe two episodes of this movie. That's all happening in 2002. And so there he is, right? Deep in it. I believe there was an expectation, given what had happened with the Rockefeller Initiative, given that John Podesta was willing to stay with it, and that something might be breaking, that this issue might really go forward under the new president, right? Which would have been, in this case, George Bush. But I don't know. I think they might have thought that. Certainly it had possibilities and they were getting involved. Now, it didn't work. It just faded away. Eventually, the coalition disbanded. John went on to, of course, create the coalition, a major think tank, Center for American Progress, which took up his time for years. So he's never been out of the game, but he kind of backed out of the issue, 2002. All right. And Spielberg was involved. Now, 17, how many years go by? It's 2002.
Can I ask a quick question? Because this is one of the questions that I had written out. Is Spielberg simply reflecting culture in making these movies, or do you think he's actually trying to help bring about disclosure? What do you think? Because it sounds like what you just said is there's some coordination there, at least some small amount.
He is trying to bring about, he is trying to help disclosure in his own way.
Okay.
You may recall another thing that hooked him to the issue is he showed, I think it was Close Encounters, I'm pretty sure. Is it possible? I think so. At the White House to a whole bunch of hotshots, and I think he was sitting next to President Reagan. Wow. And of course, when it was over, Reagan made these remarks to him, this was recorded, which I believe are true, that there are a lot of people in this room right now that know this is true. And he let that out. I think he's the one that said it. Again, they're dancing with it. Okay, I understand. The higher up you are in rank and station and money and what have you, particularly in politics, but also in business and film, the more you have to be careful with this subject because you have a great deal to lose. Whereas people like myself have nothing to lose. And so we do whatever the hell we want and say what we want. But I understand. So they're dancing with it, but they're trying to move things forward against a powerfully backed truth embargo that had been maintained for decades already. So that happened. Then you got 2002, and then things kind of slow down. And it takes from 2002 to 2000 about 21, so about 20 years, a little over 20 years. Steven Spielberg, who is an incredibly wealthy, powerful man, who absolutely has been informed one way or the other that we have the bodies, we have the technology, right? Whether he knows beyond that, don't know. Does he know where they're from? I don't know. But does he know it's real? Absolutely. Anybody with that level of funds and connections and power, and that includes just about every billionaire in this country now. We've seen is reigning billionaires now. Every one of them knows it's true because there are just too many people that are going to want to tell him that and not be stupid enough to try to fool him. You don't want to play games like that with a billionaire. The next thing you know, you're, how would you say, looking to hire lawyers with money you don't have. So I've always made that assumption, and it's never been challenged as far as I'm concerned, and nobody's going to bother. So he knows. Now, what you do with it, totally different. If you're a billionaire owner of an energy company, you approach it one way. If you are a genius filmmaker that's really in love with the subject and done something, you may do something else. I don't know. But as things move forward through the effort of so many people, whether it's researchers, I say citizen researchers, citizen activists, citizen documentarians, podcasters, all of that, citizen journalists, not the pros, not the pros, but I'm talking about the citizen stuff now, which is now more powerful than ever, right? There are podcasters out there that are far more powerful than the head anchors at the major networks. I assure you, it's a new world. It's another reason why the truth embargo is doomed. And so he knew. The question is, what would he do and when would he do it? And it's totally logical to me that given what starts happening in 2017 with the New York Times articles, along with the emergence of the To the Stars Academy and the very important people in that group that then started to move forward publicly to literally advance the disclosure process, which is why it was set up in the first place, he's paying close attention to that, very close attention. And so some progress was made in 18. Progress was made in 19, though most of this was behind the scenes, meetings taking place, witnesses taken up on the Hill we didn't even know about. Media coverage, though, was continuing to accelerate and has never stopped. More articles have been written in the last 9 years than the previous 35, 40 years. And so he's watching this. It goes on, 19, 20, 21, 22. It's really getting there. And I think he probably felt like I did, that like this is now the end game. It's not going to take much longer. One of the reasons it's taken much longer is some extraordinary domestic and foreign developments of great import, danger, and so forth have also been competing for our time since then, and being somewhat disruptive, which is to be expected. And then Grush testifies in 2023. This is the major next milestone. That interview, May 5, May 9th, I forget what the hell it was. Huge. I was there, fortunately, and was able to see it live. At that point, I think Spielberg made a decision. I think it's time for me to revisit this issue, not just to create some more entertainment and make some more money. It's worth $6-7 billion. He doesn't really need to do it for money. Not that there are people in Hollywood that'll keep making films if it'll get them another $1 billion because they just can't have too much. I don't think he's one of them. And so he starts to put a project together. It took a couple years. And notably, I picked up pretty quickly that this thing was locked down. There are movies that have been made that were locked down, meaning that, and if I'm wrong, maybe somebody will send me some clips, but I don't think so. Everybody involved, all the way down to the crews, are on NDAs. We're going to make a movie, and you're not going to talk about it. And I think if you do talk about it, you're not making the movie anymore. You're out of here. So they lock it down. They want to make it close set. Good. It builds a lot of anticipation and excitement. It costs money to do that, I think, but it's been done before, and it was done this time. And so all we knew was a movie was being made. There was no title. There was no formal title, but they would give it working titles. All right. And so after a good while, it's well underway, we learned there is a working title called The Dish. Cool.
Really, that's non-view is what it said on the internet when I looked at it as well. So that's interesting. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, it's called The Dish. And I noted that. Okay, great. Now, ironically, now that the major movie is out, another project is by a major player, because they're all going to make major projects. Once they are freed up finally from the concerns they have from upsetting their world, upsetting their careers, having government problems they don't need, every major player is going to be trying to engage this issue, simply, not necessarily to make money, but simply to say, hey, I was there and this is what I did when this went down. And so I think the project is with Bruckheimer, and last I heard it was called The Dish, but whatever. So months go by. We don't hear anything, but the issue keeps advancing. Now, I haven't been able to take the time to get a total parallel kind of calendar thing on this. It would be a fun project, but I could barely keep up with what's going on. But more things happen. It's getting more and more robust. It's advancing. And then we learn that there's a new working title. Disclosure. Yeah. Okay. Now, which disclosure he's talking about in that working title, I don't know. It could be, disclosing stuff, right? Or it could be disclosure, capital D, which is the term that I developed and have pushed like hell for, I don't know, how many years? About 22 years. Back in around 2001, 2. It is the prize. It's the goal we're seeking in this whole damn movement, and that is confirmation from the president. and other heads of state, but it's got to come from the heads of state, and some head of state is going to go first, and that's disclosure, and that's Disclosure Day, which is what I called it. In fact, I even created a website called World Disclosure Day. Not the day we got some information, the day the presence of these non-humans was confirmed. All right.
Yeah.
So
I want to say this though, real quick, Steve. I think he was influenced, at least in some part, by you, because every time I hear the word truth embargo, it always ties back to you. Every time I hear it.
Yeah.
And guess what was in the movie? The truth embargo.
Yeah.
And when I heard it, I just thought about you, and I thought he has to know something about Steve Bassett. He has to know about your work.
Well, boy, I'll tell you, that would be the day if that sort of got mentioned. I would be super thrilled. And also, again, I learned after I watched the movie, we're only, I think, 9 days apart, different cities, but 9 days apart. And also, it happens that there's a series that I was involved in, that I essentially hosted, that was going to go out years ago, and could have been could have been a good thing. Could have made some money. Could have also gotten some wonderful exposure. But the pandemic, the fires, all the hell it went on, just blew it all away. But it's sort of coming back to life, and it was actually happening again. And then, and title had always been Beyond Disclosure, which is perfect. All right. And we were going to drop it shortly after the movie came out, which, as you know, finally got a name, and that was Disclosure Day. So, I mean, you see where this is going, right? I mean, okay. And so, and then the lawyers jumped in and said, we can't do that. We can't do that. It could upset Spielberg or what have you. I don't know what the protocols are. And I sort of got that. It would look like we're just, coattailing here, right? This massive movie costing $100 million plus $100 million in advertising, a lot at stake, et cetera, et cetera. In comes this little group, going to put some big series up on a bunch of platforms using the term disclosure. I got that. And so we had to drop it. And the name that was given to it by the lawyers is abysmal. So
is that through the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance or something else?
No, it's the name of the series it was going to be called Beyond Disclosure. Hollywood Disclosure Alliance was founded before this movie was in play. So
I'm just saying, did it come out of the Hollywood Disclosure? It did not. Okay.
No. I think this precluded the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, which I founded with Dan Harari about a year, maybe 10 days. And so we changed the title. And I said, look, have one of your people call up one of Steven Spielberg's people and just say, hey, look, do you mind if we put disclosure in the name of this series, which is just a little series, like 9 episodes, going to go up to some platforms? I might say yes. And I didn't do that. Then the series is now postponed to October 1. And so I suggested it again. And I'm told, no, that's the name the lawyers want. So right now, the series is scheduled to go out with the name that the lawyers provided. Now, let me tell you something about that, right? That never goes well. It never goes well. All right. When the lawyers start doing things like that, I assure you that it's not going to go well, and there's going to be a price attached. So whatever. So if Steven was in any way influenced by me and somebody knows him and say, he could maybe just make a little statement. Hey, I'd love to see that series called that, whatever the hell. Anyway, enough of that. Enough about me. And so
some people suspect that he changed the title after Dan Farah's movie Age of Disclosure. That was a key.
That's worth checking. Remember, the working title Disclosure precludes Dan's film by some time. All right. Mm-hmm. All right. Then the Age of Disclosure finally comes out, and I do not know if the title Disclosure Day was announced before or after. It might have been after.
I was told it was after. But the reason is Farah and Spielberg worked together on Ready Player One, so they had a natural connection.
Well, yeah, but the point is that, look, to the extent that disclosure is in play, and by that I mean disclosure as a Disclosure Day is in play. Stephen Greer is the one that is using disclosure early on. He's using it as part of his disclosure project and so forth. He never really defined how he was using it. I know that he didn't define it as confirmation from the president, but I know for sure, at least, that he defined it as getting this information out. Okay. And he interviewed witnesses, he held press conference to get information out. And so I'm thinking he used it in the sense of the Disclosure Project is getting a lot of disclosure. Okay. I define the term, though. I knew a different term is a proper noun. Okay. And so proper noun, capital E disclosure, is in fact Disclosure Day, which is confirmation from the president. And so I think that all of this reflects that the term, whether it's being used as just a proper noun, or whether it's being used simply as the revealing process, either way, it is now cemented to this issue. And I'm glad I could be of help in that regard. All right. So, and yeah. And by the way, Disclosure Day, Age of Disclosure, the documentary was the first doc ever made in Hollywood by high-end people. In other words, the pros. We had made our own docs, and some of them were great because the tech gets better and better. But without that high end, there's a lot of things that aren't going to happen. You're not going to get theatrical distribution. None never did. This one got limited as it was, but enough theatrical distribution to at least be eligible for an Oscar nomination. So in that sense, Farah broke new ground. But because he was a kind of a high end person in Hollywood, he was able to get major interviews on shows like if I get my memory is not as good as it used to be. I'm telling you that. The one with Paul Mayer. What is his show called? You know what I'm talking about.
Merrick von Remmenkamp.
Mayer, the last name. What is my memory? God, anyway, real time with Bill Maher.
Bill Maher. Okay.
So he gets on that, gets a lot. He does other programs. He's getting a lot of huge press, and of course, he did Rogan, right? And so, the reason that Hollywood and these high-end people didn't make docs before, even though they were making billions of dollars from fictional movies about extraterrestrial sci-fi movies, is because they knew that kind of exposure, promoting the film with tons of money, and having it up on a giant screen, giving it all this gravitas, I'm talking about docs now, would not go well with the government. And they just didn't see a reason to piss off the government, given how things were going. I'm not going to criticize that. I'm not going to judge it. But Dan Farah broke ground there, and opened the door for more documentaries on this from high end. We'll still make our documentaries, and if people are willing to donate some money to the citizen documentarists that are well known, like James Fox, Ron James, I'm sure they can make even better, right? Because the gap between the world of the activist and the filmmakers and so forth, the citizen activists, and the professional world of the academics and the major film is closing, right? And it's starting to blend finally. Took 80 years after Roswell to get there. So again, Spielberg is involved and decides to make this film, I believe, around the time of Grush's testimony. And he's got a couple years to decide how to use it and how to make it. So he had plenty of time to craft a film that historically would be viewed as a very significant component of the last days of the pre-disclosure world era, right? And the beginning of the post-disclosure world, which will go on forever. The pre-disclosure world, modern era, is 80 years rather. Whatever happened in ancient times is cool. I love watching those shows, but it's not what's really important here. But the post-disclosure world will last forever. And so I'm sitting there very much interested in how he does this and how it will be thought of going forward. And I'm not surprised that, given that if that was in fact a primary objective, that it wasn't going to be the kind of blockbuster that's going to make $1 billion, right? It just wasn't going to be that. And it looks like it's going to do okay. I think it'll make $300 million, though. If you have disclosure, all bets are off.
Can I add a couple facts to that?
Yeah.
What you're talking about, the movie. It's already made $160 million. It's already recouped its budget. Here's the interesting thing that I found is that he's making more money right now. It's not by much, but making more money internationally than domestically from that film.
Oh, that's always the case. That's always the case.
Okay.
And it's going to be the case in this case. And I'm going to have to disagree with you. It has not met its budget.
That's what it said. One of the articles said they've already couped it. So I know what I was going off of.
and they do get it wrong. The film cost $100 million in production. It cost at least $60 million in advertising.
Right.
They only get 50% roughly of the box office. And so in order to recoup 160 million, you got to do $320 million in box office without getting into product sales and things like that. I think one article talked about 300 million might do it. And I think it will make 300 million. Now, if Disclosure comes, again, it might make an extra few hundred million. We'll see. But again, he wasn't going for $1 billion. He was going to make an important statement and be involved in the most significant transition in the history of the human race, going back to the protozoas. All right. So he starts off, as I said, with immediately what we'll call contrived violence, and then it moves forward. And so as you follow the film, the truth embargo is well represented, right? And it is represented as a product of government policy, right? The fact that defense contractors are intimate to this, that is very well represented, all right? The fact that he chose to make the defense contractors really the villains as opposed to the government, which comes off a little better. And again, it's a narrow thing. I mean, it's not like the whole, but still, if you're just watching this and you don't know much about all this stuff, you'd be going, oh, well, the defense contractors are really not very nice. These government people are trying to do the right thing. That was notable, all right? And not a bad play. The defense contractors have been a problem. They have certain privileges there that are questionable. And let's face it, if you're going to piss off one or the other, you want to piss off the defense contractors. You don't want to piss off the United States government, try to make them evil. There are plenty of movies that make the government and the intelligence agencies incredibly evil. I don't think he needs to do that. So he accomplishes that, okay? He includes contact. It's not overly done. It's there. It's clever. It's referential. It had to be there. There's no way you can just leave that out of something that's addressing this issue at this level. But it's not a contact movie per se. It's an add-on, and it's done pretty cool. So the contactees that are watching it, and there are a lot of them out there, could be millions, I think will be pleased about that. It's pretty good. All right. And so
I thought there was an interesting part as well, though, because I felt like he bridged the gap. Because in the case of the girl, she was led out by the animals. She followed them willingly. And it doesn't show how the Daniel Kilner, how he was taken or went. But there was a clear, when they were both sitting on tables, there was a clear contrast between one and the other. And I have worked with a lot of experiencers, and I can tell you that matches what I see. He was scared. She was comforting him, you know, and so I thought that was very authentic, and I thought it was an attempt to recognize both sides on that.
Let the record show that it was not me, not I, that tossed out that what do you call a spoiler? That wasn't me. Okay, now you're right. He essentially, in the limited amount of engagement of the contact issue, he indicated that it could be very positive, and indicated it also be a little bit negative, which is of course absolutely appropriate if you're going to do that. As far as the animals and so forth, well, as we all know, and of course, again, everything is done in kind of a way that is not necessarily exactly like what we have read about in the direct reporting, but nevertheless reflective and in a Spielbergian way. The animals are all nice and wonderful. And what do they represent? They represent the fact that the extraterrestrials can, in fact, appear to you as anything they want. Though you can't rule out that they can't take over an animal, right, and have it just kind of cruise around and come up to you and look at you, you know, in the eyes. I can't rule it out. But overall, the animals came off really good in this film. Okay, so we got that. But in terms of message, probably the most important message in this film was very, very carefully laid in. All right. It wasn't hammered. It wasn't made a big deal of. It was kind of just referenced a little here and referenced a little there. It came up a couple of times. It wasn't the focus of the movie. It was just kind of a, like a ceiling fixture that occasionally you'd look up and notice. And what I'm referring to, and some people might have even missed it, but essentially during the entire film, the world is at threat of a nuclear war at any time.
That made me think of you too.
Talks about DEFCON 2 and so forth. So am I shocked at that? No, not at all. If Steven Spielberg understands, as I do, and I'm not bragging, you don't have to be a genius to understand this, but some people just shut it out. If he understands, as I do, that we are absolutely on the brink of nuclear war all the time now. We've been lucky, but our luck is going to run out. And that there's a direct link between this presence of extraterrestrials and the nuclear war issue, right? There's a number of reasons for that, number of pieces of evidence, but the most important is they've shut our missiles down repeatedly. 2 times minimum, possibly 3, 4, 5. And also we have proof, thanks to George Knapp, that they've done it in the Soviet Union. People just dismiss that. Well, I guess maybe they had a slow day, needed to do something. They thought, hey, let's go out, maybe shut some missiles down, right? That'll be fun. We'll have a couple of beers, come back, take a nap. No. Nap, that's an interesting, clever trick I just pulled there. And so, no. It is the single most important thing we know about what extraterrestrials have done. They've shut our missiles down. And that is in there, but it's kind of this light overlay. So, okay, I get that. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. And so the film continues. There's a lot of very clever concepts in there. Not super duper expensive special effects, but still cool stuff that you're going, that's new. I hadn't seen that before, and so forth. It's all very good. And it keeps moving forward. It has a thread, it has a plot thread, it has a finish, but it has 2 finishes. Okay. One is essentially the resolution of the personal stuff in the sense of this person is in danger, this person is worried about that, and what have you, and this person is this way, and it's kind of resolves that, right? And which in a satisfying way, right? By the way, this movie was Spielbergian in the sense that there's a lot of what we'll call violence, right? There's a lot of scary stuff, a little bit. Not a single person dies.
I noticed that.
Yeah. Now he tends to be that. He's done some movies where there's a lot of violence, but only a couple people died. Whereas in another movie, it had been thousands dead. So, but in that sense, but I knew that's another message. Okay, I'm not going to put death in this, right? Because I have a message that transcends that stuff, right? I want you to entertain, but the message must dominate. And if in fact nuclear war is a critical matter here with respect to the extraterrestrial presence. Nuclear war, they could kill billions of people. I don't need to kill off somebody unnecessarily in this movie. And he didn't do it. Okay, good. I noticed that. And so then it's moving toward the end. And of course, I do not know how he's going to end it, but I have said on numerous podcasts, the one thing you must pay attention to is the end. Whatever happens in the movie, it is the ending that will give you the most important idea about what the hell just happened here. And of course, I referred back to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which was a cool movie with great plot, good characters, great acting. And the dilemma of Richard Dreyfuss's character was obvious, and he suffered, and his marriage broke up, and all these kind of things, and you're rooting for him, and all this is stuff that you get in movies, and that's helpful. And then it's moving toward, you don't know exactly how it's going to end, but you think seriously it'll kind of be resolved that they're really here. But what was the ending? An unbelievable, unprecedented, spectacular contact event, right? In front of a famous mountain, right? Well, all the bells and whistles, you got the music, you got audience, you got the saucers, you got lights. It's a huge thing, totally peaceful in a sense, a little scary, but not really. Culminated with an exchange of humans going on to craft, some ET staying here. Alan Hynek is there. Somebody is representing Jacques Vallée, whatever. All right. It's a big deal. It's a spectacle, right? Now, most movies tend to end in violent type spectacles. violence, or at least pretty violent until the very end where they go, it's okay. No, this is a contact spectacle. It is the most profound representation of contact ever made. And during the movie, there was some very, very profound contact stuff going on. Like the tribes out in the desert, somewhere in the Middle East, and all of a sudden they're chanting a sound. All of this, it's all about contact. By then, in 77, the CE5 movement hadn't got really underway, right? But he's always been ahead of the curve. And so I expected the same thing here. But as the movie went on, I knew it wasn't going to be a spectacular thing like Close Encounters. That doesn't mean it couldn't be profound. And all I can say, don't you dare, is that watch the movie, watch for the messages. You could always go back and enjoy more of the car chases and stuff, and then just anticipate this ending. It takes about 5 seconds, and it is an absolute power punch slammed into the truth embargo, right? In a way, in 5 seconds. And only Spielberg could have done it. He sets this up. There's so much happening that sets this up. And you really don't know. I mean, you just don't know how he's going to use this setup. And of course, I was pleased, and I knew there was something coming, but still, I didn't expect that. And I got to tell you, I was crying. Maybe because I'm alone in theater. You're alone in theater, you give me shit, right? Nobody's going to hear you cry. And I'm crying.
Yeah. Which is what's crazy, because when I went the first night with my wife, and it was like Sunday night, 15th, whatever it was, and I was expecting the theater to be packed, and it was probably about a quarter full. And then I decided, you know what, that was for me. And then a few days later, I went into Albany and watched it at a Regal Theater, which, like I said, I had to do what you had to do. I had to endure a half an hour of things about food and commercials, and they were trying to advertise items for sale. And I'm going, my goodness, I came here to watch a movie. But in that theater, there was 5 of us.
Okay.
But it hit me harder the second time, Steve. It really did. Maybe it's because I was by myself. I don't know. But having watched it the second time, everything just seemed to hit harder.
Let me add this. I love theaters. I don't get to go much, but really, they're amazing. And I don't want them to go away. And we all spend the rest of our life looking at, I got a pretty big screen here, but man, it ain't that screen I saw that movie on. And so if they got to sell, if they've got to market, they've got to make some money, and that's what keeps them going. Okay. I mean, I could put headphones on. I mean, I could put earplugs in and be listening to music. I don't have to listen to it, though. Usually what I do is I just go like this. So, I'd like to mention that. Now, the other thing I think people may not understand and appreciate is the anticipation on this movie was off the charts. And what I mean by anticipation, I don't mean anticipation like Avatar, right? That's a special effect thing. It's amazing. They're doing stuff. It's brand new tech and everything and whatever. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be incredible entertainment. You got expectations for that, which were met. That's why I did $2 billion. All right. The expectations on this movie were not about an unbelievable special effect film that takes you who've never been before. The expectations were massive on the message. In other words, what is this? How is he going to engage what untold millions of people now, hundreds of millions of people, maybe a few billion people are following, which is the end of the truth embargo, the confirmation of the ET presence. And how is he going to address it? And the people that went initially, right, because they haven't been engaging this issue for 30 years, right? They haven't read a bunch of books. It's like, hey, it's cool. It's the ET issue. We're going to go see it. And I've got these expectations. We're going to learn this. We're going to learn that. They were very disappointed. And so the thing was pounded by bad word of mouth, right? Bad word of mouth can cut a film to pieces, all right? And so it just slowed it down substantially. Word of mouth is very important. And so that's the reason why you had it did. Plus, they opened it in a zillion theaters while it was thin, which that didn't help. You go to a movie, say there's only 6 people here. That doesn't encourage people to come. So I'd cut it down. I get it. All right. Now, as time went by, people began to get it a little more. They begin to realize what they had seen. And then I think word of mouth improved a little bit, and then it started picking up again. And as you say, it's up to $160 million, which is not chopped liver, except, and again, as I say, I think disclosure could happen at any time now, particularly if things in the Gulf settle down, even for a 60-day break. I think the president has been primed on this issue for some time. I think he knows it's real. I think he knows that it will have an impact, a favorable impact on him, and so forth. And so it could happen at any time. If disclosure comes, well, you know, if I'm Spielberg, I'm going to get that movie out in a bunch more theaters again, right? And add a little trailer, some extra thing to it, that talks about what just happened and the truth embargo, and now enjoy the film, whatever, and pick up another couple of $100 million, right? Because he deserves it. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about the film. It wasn't because it was a bad film. It was because there were almost ontological anticipations. And even if it was only from the hardcore, who still number in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands, that's a whole lot of, poor statements, bad statements coming back, meaning, this thing just, no, that's not what I expected. It wasn't good. That spreads, particularly on the internet. But this movie, I assure you, coupled with Taken and coupled with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, cements Steven Spielberg's place as the preeminent entertainment mogul who engaged this issue honestly and powerfully and helped change the world. No other one can do it. I mean, I understand the X-Files, and I forget the fellow behind that. He made $1 billion. It doesn't compare. And so he's going to have that no matter what. And it's a hell of a fine legacy to have these days. And I'm very happy that he is. And I hope he continues. After refusing to do documentaries, all these top guys, all of a sudden, finally, and I'll tell you, a whole lot of work went into getting it to that place by people you and I know, some of which are past, the citizen science research activist movement. Suddenly they jumped in. So J.J. Abrams jumped in with a documentary series made with a bit more money than the ones that our friends are doing. And then Steven Spielberg jumps in with a documentary series, Close Encounters. Both had flaws, which might have been avoided if they had reached out to people that have carried all the water for the last 40, 50 years. But still not bad. That's okay. The Hollywood Disclosure Alliance was created specifically to try to get these two groups together, so multi-millionaire, billionaire entertainment producers can actually be willing to and engage the people that wrote all those books and did the research and studied endless sightings and so forth, and talk to them because they got it right. They had it right. They've had it right for a very long time. Doesn't mean that some don't. I'm just simply saying there's a vast body of knowledge there. And it would be good to take advantage of it because they sure as hell have earned the right to participate and benefit from the mega productions that are going to be coming.
I think it's one of those movies that it's going to take people to realize just how good it is. It's a new subject for some people. The media is finally starting to cover it. I'm starting to wrestle with exposure versus disclosure. Exposure will lead us to disclosure, but not everything that's being disclosed is going to lead to disclosure. But one thing about it, one of the questions I had for you was, in the movie, it was a single event that led to disclosure. So do you think the disclosure will be a single event, or do you think it will be a slow process, like what seems to be going on, or will it just culminate in a single event?
Well, let me be clear. Disclosure does not take place in that movie. All right. It's called Disclosure Day, and I get it. But disclosure, as I defined it, and we must have, is the confirmation from the head of state. That does not take place in that movie. And I think he would probably agree to that. I mean, I think he's certainly aware of the difference between disclosure, capital D, and small d disclosure. He understands that the implications of a head of state confirming it. And by the way, if a head of state, whoever it is, confirms this, other heads of state will follow very quickly. And it's worldwide, right? And nobody's going to doubt it, right? One head of state holding out while the other heads of states are going, I had no idea. What is he saying that? Or why is she saying that? No. It'll be ba-bang, 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 right? And then that's it. Okay, the doors are going to start opening. All kinds of things are going to happen. There's going to be parties all the time. Whatever. That didn't happen, and I think he knows the difference. But what he did in that film, particularly with the ending, is give the prospects of disclosure by a head of state a real good lift, right? He really, because the message at the end of that movie just isn't for the people in the audience, it's for everybody on the friggin' planet, particularly all of those who rule, all of those who have been given the privilege to control the lives of citizens and so forth and run countries, right? Which more often than not is handled very badly because the people are not adequate. And so that message to everybody. And so it will be interesting to see to what extent this film and its ending turns up in various discussions. Now, I'm kind of getting close to my time on this, Dale, so I hope it's not too bad. I've got events to go to tonight.
Well, I got a couple things that I wanted to address. One is the fact that disclosure in this one with it, the whistleblower, which understand this is Hollywood. I want to make sure that everybody understands this, but the whistleblower in this movie is different. Not to take away from the whistleblowers that have come forward. What they've done has been very important. But he did something that none of them have done. And they've gotten criticized for it, and I don't think that's fair criticism. But he broke his NDA.
A number of guys have broken their NDAs. I mean, let me this way: a few have, most have not. Okay, but this is a movie, and it's got to have some oomph. And so in this case, it had to be a much more extreme version of that. That's perfectly okay. It's dramatic. I don't think that Spielberg in any way was encouraging.
No. I don't. That wasn't my point. My point was that from the ones that we've seen come forward in the hearings and stuff, I mean, they are very much honor. They made an oath. They're going to keep it. And I don't fault him for that. But that was one of the differences. The other thing is he brought out actual evidence on it and stuff. And he didn't do it through the government, which brings me to the other quick point. Most people argue that there are three ways disclosure can happen. One is the way that you've been talking about. President steps to the podium, gets up there, tells everybody we're not alone. Second one is that the aliens, NHI, they decide that it's time, we're ready, and they do it. Now, the third one is a little more complex, and that is public. And I heard something, Steve, I wanted your thoughts on this. It was talking about, like, say you had a village of people, and you had a mayor of that village. And so 5 people go out and they see a UFO, they see aliens, and they come back and tell the people, and then 5 more go out with them, or 10 more go out with them. And pretty soon everybody in the village has either seen or heard about this event. And somebody once said, well, it doesn't really take at that point, it doesn't really take the mayor of that village to say that we're not alone, because by that point, everybody knows. And so that would be the theory of the possibility that we get so insaturated with sightings and people talking about it with the mainstream media. So that's the third possibility of it happening. I think you would agree probably the most likely option of those would probably be the government, but you'd have to, wouldn't you think that NHI could just decide one day that, especially I love the part about the movie where they had the stress with North Korea and Russia getting involved and all of that. Is there a possibility that if we're not going to do it, that the aliens, the extraterrestrials, whoever will decide, you know what, it's time to act? Because all of that in the movie was coordinated by the aliens to bring this about, because we were on the brink. And I'm telling you what, Steve, I maybe I'm biased here, but there were 2 important things: the truth embargo and the fact that the end of the world is at hand. And you've talked about, the doomsday clock. I've heard it's like 3 minutes till midnight now. I can't help but think as Spielberg and whoever helped him to write the script, they're not researchers, like you are, like others are. But I think it's clear they did some research, and I wouldn't be surprised if you weren't involved with it. But what do you think about that? Do you think that it, if the government doesn't act, if the president or the Pope or some other world figure, that they just see us in trouble and realize that they're going to have to do what we should have done in the first place, or they will orchestrate it where the president will have no choice?
You see how complicated this is getting. But the reason I came up with disclosure, capital D, head of state, is because it's straightforward, simple, and it will get the job done.
Right.
You see, and by that, in other words, Edgar Mitchell was an astronaut, walked on the moon, had a PhD in astrophysics. He said there's ETs here. Nothing. Okay. And we can go down the line, 80 years. We've had 80 years of people getting on board saying this didn't do it. Because this is a complicated world, very dangerous. There's a nuclear arms race underway. And so consequently, this issue is buried behind the truth embargo. And it's huge, 80 years of stuff that's back there. And we need to ultimately get all of that. But most importantly, we've got to get formal confirmation so that certain legal things can be done, certain programs can be done, certain things can be passed that will allow this to go forward. Now, if the ETs decide to end the matter of their presence, meaning no doubt, that would be disclosure of another type. It would be disclosure of the extraterrestrial presence. All right. Though some idiot, I can think of a couple right now, but I will not mention their name, will somehow indicate that, no, there's really no ETs in that craft. That's some sort of, I don't know, a hologram or whatever the hell. That would be disclosure of the extraterrestrial, but it would have another name. That would be catastrophic disclosure. There are a number of ways we end up with catastrophic disclosure, and I don't want any of those. Right? The fact that they might get the job done. Now, so I can't, and then in terms of the public, just suddenly getting, look, the awareness of a reality of UFOs and ETs is worldwide now. Probably 99% of the people on the planet at least know what a UFO is. All right, you can't avoid it. It's everywhere. I mean, the ones in the deepest jungles, I don't know, live under the ocean, whatever. Probably, I don't know what a UFO is. Everybody else got a name for it in their own language. And so that's there. And then, of course, the idea of going into space and sci-fi. How many billions of views of sci-fi movies with spaceships have taken place the last 80 years? God knows, probably 100 billion views. Who knows? And so the planet is practically saturated in it, in a sense. And so it wasn't enough. Okay, it wasn't enough. There's a lot of people in this country, probably the majority, that want to see these nuclear missiles gone. They're still here. All right. History is not a democratic process, meaning, well, we're going to figure out relativity as soon as the majority of the people are willing to actually take a look at space-time and consider another. No, that's not the way history works. It moves forward and starts and fits, and sometimes a sizable amount of people are leading. Sometimes it's a limited number. But if there's somewhere to lead to, if there's something important, we'll get there. So I view all of these as undue restrictions that are being put on it. There are always restrictions being put on. The government gives you all of these reasons, and I just want to keep it simple. I want the government, I want the DOD, I want the managers of the truth embargo, and everybody else. I understand. The only thing between them and the end of this truth embargo and the beginning of the post-disclosure era, when they're going to have a lot of rather tough questions to answer, based upon a massive compilation of their letters and tweets and God knows and texts and everything else, where they're basically going, there's nothing to this, is a less than 1 minute statement from a significant head of state, certainly any one of the nuclear powers. It could be UK, it could be Russia, it could be China, it could even be France or the UK, or maybe even Australia. But whatever, 1 minute and it's done. Right, and they'll say, "No, it's not. No, it's not. That head of state's lost their mind. He's drunk. Clearly, he's on methamphetamines or something." And then all of a sudden, another head of state says, "Yes, that is correct. We are aware of that." And then, what are they going to do? I want them to understand it that way. It is that simple. Yeah. So hopefully, they'll wise up and get the hell out of the way. Right, but there's still some that are trying to weasel their way into this with their totally ridiculous, ancient ideas. Try to be part of the front line, and I'm amused I think it's not so much that they weasel their way in, but rather people that don't know better going, hey, let's add that person to this, whatever. So that's how I view it.
What you want is an exclamation mark, not a question mark.
Yes, sir.
That's what you want.
And we need to end the show because, and I'll very quick here.
Okay.
Disclosure Foundation at disclosure.org is holding a major event tomorrow, a full-day conference forum at the Kennedy Caucus Room, which is one of the most famous rooms in all of Capitol Hill, holds 300 people. It's in the Russell Senate building. Treaties have been signed there. It's going to start at 9 o'clock. It's going to go on all day. All right. I will be there. And it's going to be a milestone event. And it's going to be broadcast live at disclosure.org. Watch the whole damn thing. All right. There's some events tonight, and I have to go to one of them right now. Okay. So this is another example of the fact that war's here, war's there. There's no oil. The reflecting pool is full of algae. And this issue just keeps moving forward because it is inexorably in the last days of this 80-year truth embargo. Wow. And Dale, you can have me back anytime, but definitely call me back. Not too far from now, so I can go over what I saw and heard at this event tomorrow.
That would be good. We'll get you scheduled on that. I just want to thank you for being on. I know you've got to go, and we're rushed short on time, but thank you so much for being on. Go ahead and take off, and I will close out the podcast now. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Well, I was really, in case you want to get more information about Steve Bassett, if you look at the description below, you're going to see some links to his different social media sites and stuff like that. And we'll definitely have him back on to tell us what happened with whatever's going on tomorrow night. I think I saw a post from Matt Ford about something tomorrow, and I'm assuming that's the same event. To me, this was an incredible movie. I went into it realizing that Disclosure Day was made from Hollywood. It wasn't going to be a documentary with getting everything perfect, but I thought it was one heck of a movie. And I thought that that Spielberg had done a lot of research. Like I said, it doesn't make him a UFO researcher or an alien researcher, but I felt like he put due diligence into it. And I thought it was a great movie. And if you haven't watched it yet, let me just encourage you to get out there and watch it. I watched it twice. And like I said earlier, I really enjoyed it even more the second time. If you're new to the channel, I've got a chance to ask you, but go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Help the channel out by sharing it. A little preview. I don't know if it's this Monday or the following Monday, but Chris Sharp just let me know that he would be available on Monday. And so it could be this Monday. I'll be putting more information out on that once I have it confirmed so that you guys will know. But that'll be a good 1-2 punch. Steve Bassett, Chris Sharp. And then I've also from Daniel Herrera, he's wanting me to have Ron James come on. And so that would be another great podcast. And so if you haven't subscribed one more time, please help the channel out, share it, tell your friends about it. Anyway, you have a wonderful day and God bless.
Woke up in a parking lot, shoes on wrong, phone long gone, taste of metal on my tongue. Sky still buzzing in my lungs. Flashes in a stereo blue. Voices shaped like colored glass. Every question I could ask, answered then in double back.